Yeah, I can't wait. I fell up a ladder. I fell 12 feet.
Which was worse, that or this?
Oh, boy.
All right, welcome to first episode of Burning Questions, a new interview series inspired by Hot Ones, where instead of eating spicy wings, Tasha will be smelling spicy air. So we have a assortment of smelling salts, courtesy of Zone smelling salts, increasing in intensity, and she's going to give some huffs before each question. It's going to be a good time.
Boy, I can't wait.
So
burning good time.
Burning good time.
Whew. All right.
Big thanks to my first guinea pig guest. This is Tasha. I've known Tasha for a very long time. She is one half of a whole. Her and her husband Dan are going to be taking over my coaching starting next week. So I'll talk about that a little bit more in some upcoming training videos. But just because there's going to be questions, I will be moving on from laws for no other reason than it turns out I'm a little bit high maintenance and like more hands-on work. So
it's true.
I've known Tasha and Dan for a long time.
Over a decade.
They're phenomenal athletes, phenomenal coaches. So now Tasha, Dan, and Spencer, my nutrition coach, will all be local. So we have the whole team in one place.
Let's go.
So before we get going on questions, I'm going to give you the floor to kind of introduce yourself, your background, what you do, and kind of just your accomplishments as both an athlete and a coach.
Beautiful. All right. Well, let's see. I have been a coach. This is my 24th year. I know I look really young, but 24 years. I'm 40, Murray, 40 years old. As
we're twins.
Tell by my platinum blonde highlights that are coming in, but yet same age, 40.
Twins.
So 24 years of coaching this year. I've been an athlete predominantly my whole life. I grew up playing sports, mostly track. I was an endurance athlete for a very long time. I loved running. It was probably one of my favorite things to do until I realized I was just so tiny and little scrawny. I wanted to get big. So I got into bodybuilding a bit, put on some size because you can tell by how massive I am, I know. And then got into strength sports long time ago now. Getting close to 20 years. It started with powerlifting, actually. So dove pretty deep into powerlifting, which is where I actually met Aaron about maybe, was it 10 or 11 years ago?
It was 2013. I'm pretty sure.
12 years ago. No, it was, yeah. So when Aaron and I actually competed in our powerlifting competition together, we were little guys. I think that's when Aaron was actually starting to put on some weight. But, if you don't know much about Aaron's background, she actually is a scrawny little athlete. She was like in the 132 class.
I started at the 132 powerlifting class.
Yes, exactly. So 132ers, we were competing together in that weight class, and then it turns out Aaron just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more massive and way stronger than me. But so I got into powerlifting and did a pretty darn good job competing in the 132 and 148 class. I did win the International Powerlifting League World Championships back in, I think it was 2017, maybe 2018. So that was pretty cool. That was a fun achievement for me in that. And then kind of got into strongman because I was absolutely bullied by, yet again, Erin, which I actually really do appreciate her kind of pulling me into this. So this is probably in 2020, actually, that she pulled me into my first strongman competition. And it was love at first contest, I guess. So it was pretty cool to actually experience that and kind of see from even your lens the love that you had for that sport and pulling me into it, because I've really enjoyed the last handful of years competing in it. Last year I did win the Arnold Amateur Lightweight World Championships, so that was pretty cool. That was a huge accomplishment for me in the sport, and now I am a pro lightweight, and recently put on a little bit of a weight, which is great, like 35 pounds, which I'm excited about because I'm tired of being scrawny. So we'll see kind of how it goes this year, kind of moving up into maybe weight class into 73 or cutting back down to 64. We'll see. Aside from my athleticism, academically, I went to college for way too long and have degrees in cultural anthropology, archaeology, dance, exercise science, and athletic training. So I just kind of kept
collecting.
going. Yes. And then I'm also a master instructor for a certification course, Pain-Free Performance Certification. So I get to certify coaches, personal trainers, physical therapists, and clinicians in pain-free movement. So that's kind of a little and a lot about me.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so into questions.
Shit.
Starting with the lightest, we've got the Norse blood small for the first question. So some lead up. Obviously, on top of being a phenomenal athlete, spent 25 years almost
about,
coaching, putting a lot of time, energy, resources into being pretty damn great at what you do.
Thank you.
You're really immersed in this world, but is this how you saw your life going? Did you always want to be a coach?
I'm so nervous about this. Sniff and answer, huh?
Yep.
I had hoped. Jeez Louise, Marie. Oh, man, this is going to be fun. I'm awake a little bit, and this was the light one?
Yeah.
I had hoped. Actually, I wanted to be an athlete growing up. Jeez. So...
What sports?
I actually wanted to be a track star. I wanted to go to the Olympics in track. I was a very, very fast runner, especially in the mile. Actually could do sub 5 minutes when I was a teenager. So very fast. Unfortunately, I got into quite a bit of trouble growing up, and my path changed significantly, and it pulled me away from sports and the things that I had deeply desired as a kid. And so I went back to college and got a degree in exercise science because I thought it was the thing that would actually pull me back into what I truly felt was the place I belonged. So cool. So yeah, I had hoped that this is actually ultimately, I kind of grew up to be exactly what I wanted, was to be strong and athletic and crying on Marie's podcast.
Yay.
Nice, yeah.
How old were you when you started coaching?
Is this another sniff? Okay, good. I'm like, shoot. I was 16 when I first started to get this. At 16 years old, the pay that I got for coaching, this is in Ellensburg, Washington, I was paid in cigarettes. I know that sounds really terrible, but
it's real.
But it is real. I would get a pack of cigarettes. We'd go to the gym. I would coach a couple people that I worked with at Taco Bell, and we would train. I'd get my cigarettes and we'd go smoke them.
Hell yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's good for you. I'm pretty sure.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Starting a career. All right. Next question. So in the fitness world, getting injured is a risk that we all take. Usually happens to us at some point to some degree eventually. And actually in life as a whole, injuries happen.
Yes.
It's not related to sport.
Yep.
So there's usually pretty good support around like information on physical rehab for injuries, but there's a huge mental component as well. So for our next question, we've got the Irish Cream. Next up, can you tell us briefly about one of your own experiences, and then talk to us a little bit about the psychological rehab that has to happen to return to play 100%?
Yeah, I can't wait. I fell off a ladder. I fell 12 feet.
Which was worse, that or this?
Oh, boy. Yeah, injuries are real, and they, beyond the physical, gosh, you're a little bit of a jerk here. I like it. All right, beyond the physical nature of injuries, you have to think about the psychological elements of it, and especially as a coach too, and as an athlete. So after, again, last year I won the Amateur World Championships, and then a few months later I took a big tumble off of a 12-foot ladder, fell and landed on a dumbbell rack, slammed, boom, smack. I mean, it was pretty brutal. I ended up tearing my adductor, my hamstring, my glute min, max, and med, cracking my pubic bone, herniating my cervical spine, C5, C6, C7, also getting thoracic compression on both sides, so block of blood flow on both sides there, and then also a concussion. And with all that stress, the physical stress and the mental stress of the injury and things I was just kind of pushing to continue to do, I actually ended up having a mini stroke, so a TIA. So that definitely rocked my world quite a bit. And this was just in last August, and something that I've been overcoming ever since then because of different things that had come up with that. But one of the biggest things that I have experienced with it is the power of words, communication, and the power of having the right people in place for you in your corner, your support system. I had gone to several doctors. I was in the ER, and one doctor with my neck and thoracic issues had told me, again, a very high level competitive athlete, said that he didn't know if I was ever going to be able to compete again or lift heavy. And he's like, you get bumped a little too hard, you could go completely paralyzed. And that immediately, saying that to me, completely flipped a switch in my brain, and it just shut something off for me. Like, I just completely shut down. I was so afraid to even leave my house. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to leave. I was afraid to take steps down from curves, even walking, because I was afraid to slip as like it got rainy. And
it's like the fear can be a bigger limiter than the actual physical restrictions.
It made everything exponentially worse. So like, I knew I was hurt, but I was like, oh, I'm hurt. I've been hurt before. But then someone in authority, right? We look at doctors, okay, as authority, they know the best, they're not going to lie to us or tell us these things that aren't realistic. And so here this doctor is telling me that I could potentially go paralyzed and I shouldn't ever compete again and lift heavy. And so I was afraid to even drive in my car. I was afraid that if I got bumped or someone just even like rear-ended me, I was going to go completely paralyzed. So all this major fear. I was afraid to lift weights, wouldn't do anything, couldn't put anything on my back. And yeah, there was physical elements there. I was struggling with numbness, paresthesia, all these issues. And it just completely shut me down. It just made me...
Instead of working with you towards a goal, it just...
He didn't see me as an athlete, as like, okay, what is her background? What has she been doing? What has she accomplished? What is her training like? I'm not the average person, right? I mean, athletes, we aren't the average people, And so he was just like, oh, I don't want you to lift anything, over 3 pounds. I'm like, my coffee's more than 3 pounds, And like, even that, I didn't really kind of take that as like, oh, I can't lift that much. But like, he was just telling me, he's like, nope, I don't want you to do this. You can't like restrict me from doing anything and everything. And so I was so terrified that I was going to go completely paralyzed. And I went through some PTs and not the right people at all. And I found a sports med doctor who looked at me on the first day, and I had told him what the doctor said. He said that, I'm going to go paralyzed, whatever. He looked at me and he's like, look at you. You aren't that fragile. There's no way. He's like, you're a lot more resilient of a human than you actually think you are. And he's like, we're going to get you back better, stronger than you were even before this. Right. And so I was like, that started making that switch go back. And it was just the power of the right words. And I needed to hear that. Yes. And it's like, it's wild what your own psyche can do to you. It can really mess with you. And fear of going paralyzed, fear of re-injuring yourself. And I work with a lot of clients too that have these kind of psychological barriers, and we're like, even the right words too, of like, or I should say wrong words. I have someone that I worked with that if I said the word squat, they would freeze. They would shut down, like, squat, like, but that makes my quads work and turn on. And then they had this fear of like, oh, that their quads turned on, then they would feel this pelvic injury that they previously had, So it's very important, I think, in the world that we live in to actually have the right people to say the right things to you and
understand who you're working with.
100%.
What they need.
Exactly. And I think, again, people, the average doctor, I mean, we have clients, and I'm sure you have, where the doctor said deadlifting is bad for my back. And what do we say? It was just like, deadlifting is not bad for your back. I mean, anything you do
wrong is bad for your
back. Anything done wrong is bad for the body in some element, right? But we as coaches always say like, no, we're going to teach you how to do it right. But then when you're on the other side of that, and then a doctor is like, oh, you're going to go completely paralyzed if you, train too hard or something, it messes with you. So the psychological elements, I think, are a lot trickier to overcome than the physical, right? Because we know that physically we could get better, but then if you have such a barrier psychologically, it makes the physical recovery that much longer and that much harder to get through. Yeah. Yeah. I like that my nose is running too now, and like,
it's cute.
It's fine. I know. Are you looking at it too? I know.
You look great. All right. This one's fun coming up. We got blueberry pie. This one at least smells nice.
Okay. This is cool.
So I've known you a very long time. I know that putting on weight is something that you struggle with, and we've joked about it, but it also is a real issue for a lot of athletes, and especially in strength sports where putting on mass is valuable. I also know that you made some changes recently to make some progress in that department. You put on, you said 35 pounds naturally in the past few months, which is huge.
Yep.
So what changes did you make to finally start seeing results, and what advice would you have for other hard gainers?
Oh, that smell! Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is actually so blueberry. Eating is the key, though. But this is good. Oh man, eating food. So I thought that I was eating enough. Oh boy. And I was like, wow, why can't I gain weight? I can never gain weight. I eat, until I realized that I was actually eating. I was underfueling myself significantly, and I didn't realize it. I mean, being a coach, we have some early mornings, so I'd be getting up at 4 a.m, going into work, and I wouldn't eat breakfast. So I'm like, oh, it's too early for me to eat. So I'd be drinking coffee, and then I'd eat, maybe 4 or 5 hours later. And I was thinking like, oh, I'm eating enough, but I was eliminating those early morning hours of actually not getting anything into my body while I was kind of up burning, and being on my feet all day long, going. You think about spotting clients, loading the bars, unloading the bars, and how much energy that even requires all day long doing that. And I had that assumption that I was actually fueling my body enough and like making up for the morning deficit at night. Because I'm a nighttime eater. I'd eat a pretty big dinner, and then I'm guilty of being a munchy person. I like my treats, my candy, my ice cream, and whatever. I'm like, oh, it might not be the healthiest way to do it, but I'm getting calories in. But so I actually changed my schedule, and so now I actually get to sleep in. I don't get up at 4, I get up at 7, and that actually make a huge difference for me in terms of even just recovering. And then I actually have a solid breakfast, and it's bigger than normal, whereas not eating, now I'm like 3 or 4 eggs, 2 or 3 pieces of toast, some sausage, some bacon, I eat some fruit and a protein shake. Like it's quite a bit. So I realized that I was actually probably not getting about 1,500 calories in that I needed a day. So, and it's huge. Like if you think that like, oh, I'm not gaining weight, it's really hard for me, maybe you should start tracking your food, and like, I'm not someone that's going to track my food for forever, but I was like, let me actually see what I'm actually putting in my body. So I started tracking just a little bit just to kind of see, and it was terrible. It was like weight loss calories,
from like both ends of the spectrum. I think a lot of times people just don't realize what they're doing unless you actually take the time to track it and see. Like people that are trying to lose weight and don't realize why they can't, and then you track and you realize, oh, I'm actually eating a lot more than I thought. And it goes both ways. I think a lot of times people think they're getting a lot of calories until you actually record it and realize like, maybe I'm not. Yeah,
no, it's interesting. Actually, my husband, who Aaron's going to have on here at some point, he's exactly the opposite. He's always trying to cut. He's a little bit bigger, he's thicker, and he always wants to cut weight, and I always want to gain weight. And so he started tracking recently. It's like, oh, let's actually take a look at your calories. We didn't even realize how much over in fats he was. And like, no, fat's not going to make you fat, but too much of anything is like, oh, you don't need that much. Exactly. Yeah. He was just adding to the overall calories that he was putting in. So really kind of considering these things, if you are struggling with weight loss or weight gain, like maybe actually pay attention to what you're doing, because sometimes we don't really consider like, oh, I really am not eating nearly as much as I should be for someone that wants to gain weight. You have to be in a surplus. And I was absolutely still in a deficit. That's why, we always talked about how lean and my nice 6 to 10 pack that I had all the time going on, but I don't quite have that at this moment.
To your goals, though.
Well, and that's the thing. It wasn't, and like I'm still fit, I'm still athletic. I had a lot of muscle on me, but I didn't need to be. I was at 7% body fat for someone that's trying to gain weight.
Yeah,
it's not really what I needed to be at, right? So yeah, food.
I think it is kind of cool and interesting and important for people to like just try tracking without changing anything first, and just to like actually see what you're doing, because most people just don't know.
Well, and that's the thing too. So that's what both Dan and I did. It's like, don't try to change anything. Just track exactly what you're eating, how you're eating, and everything in it. And that's what it was a big wake up call for both of us. Yeah.
All right. Rerouting a little bit from a fun question. You're pretty established in the fitness world at this point, but if you were to start a new business tomorrow, something completely different, what would that business be and what would you call it?
Ooh. I would be a treasure hunter. Mom, I think I have to tell my mom on you. And what you're doing, that's not what I would call it. But actually, that would actually be a good... I like that name. I'm going to tell my mom on you.
It's a good business name.
It is. Treasure hunter, archaeology. I would actually probably start an archaeology company, because I have a degree in archaeology, and it was something that I was very passionate about. I think as a kid, I always wanted to be like, Indiana Jones, Lara Croft. So I would probably call it The Adventures of Tasha's Archaeology. I don't know. That's a really, I'm going to tell my mom is what I'm going to call it.
Okay.
Yeah. That's mean.
How's your brain feeling?
God, a little mushy. It's fine.
All right, you guys have been on some pretty cool adventures. I've seen pictures of you and Dan, like from beaches of Thailand to like climbing Mount Everest. You've done some pretty cool shit.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Tell me about the best trip you've been on and why it's your favorite.
Okay. Oh, I'm losing strength. I thought I was supposed to make you stronger. Hold on. I'm so afraid. Africa. Oh boy. Okay. Africa. This was 15. No, how many years ago was this? 2015. Can you guys see my face? I'm legit. Like, is there a mascara running down?
No, you look good. You look great.
Oh, thanks.
You look better than they do on Hot Ones.
That's mean. Oh yeah, God. Africa. So Africa was my first big trip out of country. For my 30th birthday, I went to Africa, and it was something I dreamt of doing since I was a kid. I grew up very poor, didn't have money, never went anywhere. We couldn't do any trips, nothing like that. And I used to fantasize. I did a lot of daydreaming as a kid, and I think that's because it's the only escape I really had was to daydream and fantasize. And so I used to dream about like, going to Africa and doing really cool stuff. I wanted to travel there, and that's again why I liked anthropology and archaeology. I wanted to go, and so I made a decision in my 20s that for my 30th birthday, I would somehow figure out how to get to Africa. And I did, and I ended up climbing Kilimanjaro, which is almost 20,000 feet, so it's a very high mountain. It's not too technical, but it's high and it's special. But I think it's a very meaningful trip because it was the first big one that I took, and it was the trip that Dan actually proposed to me. He proposed on top of Mount Kilimanjaro. It was like a really gross, disgusting romantic movie. Where, it's like 6 a.m, the skies are pink on the highest peak of Africa, and the clouds, it looked like what we envision heaven to be like, right? So it's like absolutely stunning, remarkable. And he got down on one knee, dropped the ring in the snow. I thought it was hilarious. And I mean, there was snot just like it is on my face right now, but it was frozen up there, and he actually proposed in Swahili. So he would at night go to the guides and ask them to help him learn how to say, "Will you marry me?" in Swahili. And so again, it was really sweet. It was really cute and really disgusting, but sweet mostly. And so he proposed up there, and I think it was just a really cool moment. Even though I was like terrified, and I never actually said yes. I actually just gave him a thumbs up. Which I give him shit about that sometimes. Yeah, it is just like thumbs up, snot frozen on my face, on his too. It was great. But that trip too, not just even for that moment, which was a huge highlight, even more of a highlight now that I look back at it. At that time, I didn't realize how meaningful that was. But it was also the overall experience because it was the first time that I really experienced racism the other way around, right? In our country, this is safe. This is such a safe place for us. It's home, right? And here I am in Africa. We went to this little town, one of the local towns, and myself, Dan, and a friend of ours that we were with, we went into a bar there, and we were hissed at, spit on. They were throwing cans or bottles at us, like to get out of there, and like it was horrible. It was just like, oh my gosh, we're so hated right now in this this small town. We didn't know. We were just kind of walking around like, oh, it's just we're on vacation, right? But these people hated us because they looked at us as like wealthy, white, rich people, right? I mean, just like these, they did not like us. And as horrible as that is, I actually am very grateful for that experience because I realized, and it's again, I'm home, I'm safe now, but how many people experience that?
It's perspective.
It is. And it opened my eyes and lends just a whole different side of what people actually experience in life, so yeah, so it was a pretty rewarding in many ways. Yeah.
Oh, so that was 10 years ago?
It was in 2015.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Jeez, yeah, 10 years ago.
All right. Actually leads nicely into my next question.
Okay.
Obviously, you and Dan have been together a long time.
Yeah.
Over a decade, clearly.
Yep.
And you guys seem to make a really great team.
Yes.
Like, not just in life, but as coaches. Like, you guys work together very closely. So talk to me about what it's like working so closely with your partner and what it is that you think makes you guys such a great team, such a great coaching duo.
Oh, what is this? What? Why? Hold on. Yeah. So, you're here telling my mom. I hope my mom watches this. I love you, Mommy. Oh,
It's
boy.
safe.
Yeah.
Mostly.
That's actually a great question. So Dan and I have been together for 12 years, worked together for about the same, and we basically started dating pretty closely when we first met each other. And I think the thing that makes us work really well is that yin and yang. Once people actually kind of watch this and watch my personality, and then they get the opportunity to see Dan's personality, you will see the difference. And I'm very animated. I'm very energetic. I'm very intense. I'm very inappropriate. There's a lot of, I'm kind of messed up in the head a little bit, and that's okay. Whatever. It makes for a fun time for Dan, I'm sure. But Dan is calm. Again, I've gone through a lot of things in life, a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, and Dan is the calmest thing that has ever existed in my world. And legitimately, his energy, that calmness really soothes the raging storms internally and psychologically in me. And so I think just even that energy balance, I think I push him in good ways because he's so calm and quiet. And I've challenged him. We've traveled the world, and that's something because I'm we're going to go do these things. And he's like, oh, he's always on his toes with me, a little bit, because I think I bring the adventure in, but Dan also brings that calmness and that kind of a little bit more of the reasoning, and just in terms of even coaching, Dan is I'm very good with people. I not that Dan's not, he really is too, but I'm very personable. I understand people. I think it's because of my background and the things that I have experienced in life. I'm very empathetic. I have this kind of deeper connections with people. I can understand the diversity really well. And yeah, technically, I've been a coach for 24 years, but Dan is very freaking nerdy. He's so technically he's the book guy, academic. He's smart. He knows stuff. He can we can have the same information in the way that Dan will explain it versus how I explain it. Very different. So I think that we also fill in each other's gaps really well. So sometimes and we coach together in most of our clients, even in programming too. It's a good blend for us because even if clients kind of are talking or expressing themselves more emotionally, I will kind of be the one that responds to that because I can kind of tap into a little bit more of the emotions. And then if there's something more technically kind of going on where we're looking at stuff, I'm like, hey Dan, take a look at this technical stuff, and he actually is really good at kind of explaining that technically, so it just is a really oddly good blend and combination. And people always ask, do you guys get sick of that though? We live together, train together, our friends are the same, we work, everything was always together, and it's the first time in my life that I've ever felt like home, and I think that is I think he would say the same. I hope he would say the same, but
well,
yeah,
we'll see in
we will. I know. I'm definitely going to watch that too. And but yeah, so I think it's home, and it works. Our synergy is complements each other pretty well. Yeah,
I've always seen that with you guys. I've known you guys, I guess, for probably 10 of those 12 years.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been fun to watch you guys.
Oh yeah,
over the last
it's
decade.
Special.
We're getting old.
I know. Hasn't it been the most fun though to watch Dan's facial hair grow? I feel when you do him, you need to put a before picture and then and now here he is now. So
we do need a 10 years ago Dan picture.
Yeah, that's yeah. Oh, that's
that would be
spicy.
Cute.
Yeah, it's cute.
I would do a 10 years ago picture of you, but you look the same, so it's not fun. It's just more more tattoos.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, we got the minty one.
Okay,
this one's fun. I like this one. This is the frost. Last question before we just play a game at the end.
Okay.
So, if you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
Oh, that's deep, Marie. I don't know why I went back for another sniff there.
It just draws you in.
Oh, the way I treat people. I think I'd really like to be remembered for my compassion and empathy towards people. I could say my athletic endeavors, I could say all this stuff, but
You know what I mean? Just like the old saying, you make me cry. That's not the old saying. But, you know, people always remember how you made them feel, you know, and I feel like that's something that I really take to heart. And I would want to be more remembered by how I make people feel, you know, make them feel good and like they're seen. And that I'm someone that always strive to empower people to be their best and at their best. So, yeah.
Cool. I like that. All right. We're almost done. You're almost done. You have one more.
I was pretty before.
You're still pretty.
Thanks.
The root beer is over on your end. That's my last one, my favorite one, root beer.
Okay.
So I've got some would you rather
Okay.
questions.
Okay. So do I sniff this first and then you would how does this work?
So I'll ask the first question, then you can sniff it, and then we'll just
just keep going.
rapid
Okay,
fire. I want
beautiful.
your
Nice.
first reaction.
Okay.
Okay. Would you rather have fingers as long as your toes or toes as long as your fingers?
Oh my god.
I thought you were strong.
I thought I was too. I would rather have. Oh shit! I don't like that question actually. I think. Fingers as long as my toes because I have long toes. Is that weird? Okay.
Would you rather live without air conditioning or without deodorant?
Air conditioning.
Would you rather be on a losing team with friends or a winning team with people you hate?
Losing.
Be famous when you're alive or remembered after you die?
Remember after I die.
Last one. Would you rather chew gum off a subway seat or lick peanut butter off a porta potty floor?
Chew gum.
Ugh.
I don't like either one of those options. That's. That's gross.
You throw up?
Yeah, I think so. Oh my god, are we gonna go lift now? Now we should.
Yeah,
go, like,
we're gonna go
deadlift.
lift now.
1 rep max.
Feel
deadlift.
hyped? Let's go.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I might pass out.
There's a lot of aromas in there.
Yeah, I
It's
know,
a very
right?
small room.
It's fine. Yeah.
You did it. You made it. You didn't die.
Thanks. That was fun. That was great.
That was fun. You look great.
I'm afraid. Like I can feel this eye, like kind of.
That was
It's
a
so
lot.
moist.
That was a lot.
I know.
We did 8 huffs.
That was. I don't think I'm gonna go to sleep for a few days.
fine.
But I don't need
fine.
to. It's whatever.
No. Well,
Let me ask you a question now. How excited are you to start your program this week?
I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
That's cool. It's up there for you.
Oh, is it up?
Oh yeah. It's there
I'm
for
really
you.
excited for conditioning party together on Mondays and Thursdays.
Yay! That's going to be great. We're going to have so much fun together. Cool.
Yep.
I'm excited, though. And I appreciate the opportunity to see what we can do.
Yeah,
with you. So,
I'm excited. And
yeah.
thanks for being here. Thanks for being the guinea pig for episode 1.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
on Instagram at IronWolf03. On Facebook at Tasha Wolf Whelan. Spell that. Go ahead. And then website, idealstrength.com. And there's a lot of good stuff on there. So check it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll put her handle down in the description. Of course, thanks to Zone for supplying all these great
Great. Yeah, I know.
They're fun.
excited
It's
to
like
try.
a fun variety of stuff. So
It is.
make sure to check them out. If you do buy anything, use my code Murray10. It saves you some money. It also helps support me in my athletic career. And I'm excited for this series. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have questions in the comments. Let me know who you want to see on the podcast. I'll try to get them in. Make sure to subscribe to be alerted when the next one is up. And thanks for being here.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and plug in what my favorite ones are. Blueberry and root beer.
Hey, those are my favorites too. I also
Nice.
like the grape one. But
Actually, that was pretty decent too. Yeah, that's fair.
Cool.
Okay, nice. Bye now.